Welcome to the Feminist Spark podcast. This is a podcast run by feminists in Kenya where we discuss feminism with an African lens. In this series, we will be analyzing gender-based violence, its causes, effects, and how we can work to eliminate it from our societies. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation, and feel free to join in by liking, sharing, and leaving a comment. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Feminist Spark podcast. This is a podcast run by feminists in Kenya, where we discuss all aspects of feminism with an African context. Today, we are going to be discussing TFGBV, which is technology-facilitated gender-based violence and cyberbullying. My name is Jahira Gitahi, and I'm so happy to be joined today by Mwende. Hi, Mwende.
Hi, Jahira.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Maybe you can start off by telling us a little bit about yourself before we dive into this topic.
Okay. I never know how to answer this question.
Fair.
It feels like an interview question. But I would say like I'm multi-hyphenated. Like, a lot of, I guess it started with millennials. I'm a millennial. And, we juggle a lot of things, wear many hats. But I think the one that covers most of what I do is that I work in comms or storytelling. So I write a lot across different mediums. I've been doing it for like more than a decade. Yeah, so that's like my bread and butter. But that also happens to be something that I really enjoy. So, it's a very nice I guess, choice, because I would say choice because I had other choices, but it's a nice choice because, I tell stories and for a living. And also as part of my hobbies, there's also a lot of storytelling things. Yeah.
So getting into the topic of cyberbullying, especially from a gender-based violence lens, I guess we can start by talking about your own personal experiences with that, knowing that you're fairly prominent on Twitter, what is now known as X. Maybe you can tell us what your experiences have been over the years with that.
Well, first of all, I will never call that platform X.
Me too. I just said it.
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't care. I don't care what Elon wants to call it. For me, it will always be Twitter, and I still call it Twitter. I think, let me start from the beginning. When I joined as one of the, early Twitter.
OGs.
Yeah. When it was a very small community and you knew everybody. But I was a little bit quiet. I didn't go for a lot of these offline events. I went for like a couple. But there's a lot of things going on. But yeah, you knew everyone. And so it felt like more, I don't know, use the word safe, but it's sort of like you feel more open because you kind of know the people. Then as the platform became bigger and more popular, now you have like so many other people on this platform. And then now it's like real strangers. And so if you've been kind of moving with this openness, then now you're sort of surprised that, there are a bunch of other people that actually have no idea who these guys are. And some of them are like really, really like cruel. And then as social media got big, money came into the equation. So now you have like famous people online and they're getting paid like by brands or, the government, even then, because you have some sort of pull on people, you have popularity, people listen to what you say. And so then it kind of fueled that rise of a particular kind of content. It was like really, really terrible. The crueler you are, the more followers you're gonna get. So a lot of the early, like really like big wigs, the men on Twitter were literally just like very rabid misogynists.
So this was back in the day, right? But of course it continues into the present day. And I'm thinking about how these days attacks against women, queer people, femmes, sex workers seem targeted, or even against politicians. We can talk about how male politicians are spoken about online versus how women politicians are spoken about. It's always so jarring to me that when it comes to, all of them are performing poorly, but when it comes to women, it's that you're a bimbo, you're a, Malaya, and you're hot. It's very reduced into the sexual aspects, or even the brain. Like, you don't have a brain, you only have boobs. Um, so how do you feel like that impedes the participation of women, or what is the motivation behind it? Do you feel like these attacks, all the cyberbullying is well orchestrated, or it's just men sticking up for men?
Yeah, great question. So what I will say is that social media and the online space in general doesn't exist like in a vacuum. So, sometimes, and I still see this happening, where people would try to kind of separate like offline and online and say that, oh, if someone says something to you, that's why even the whole cyberbullying thing, it's like people taking it as a joke and saying like, I mean, if you're so affected, so you log out. Like, it's not real like violence. Like, what do you mean? It's not like someone coming up to you and like punching you in the face or doing something. It's because someone said bad words to you online. Like, switch off your laptop or your delete the app. Like, it's presented that way, where it's sort of like it has no effect, which is very untrue. But also at the same time, it's sort of this refusal to understand that social media is just these are platforms, these are tools. The same people on that social media are the same people offline. The way that person is talking on social media is exactly what they think offline. So even the thing where they pretend like, oh, it's banter, I wasn't serious, I'm just joking, that's a complete lie. It's a complete lie. This is who the person is, okay? Because even the fact that you think that that is a joke, it says something about you. It says something about you. So for me, it's really just like a distilled version of the actual thoughts of people. So also remember why there's a lot of vitriol against women on social media, right? What is it? It's because women are not supposed to exist in the public sphere. We're supposed to exist in the private, right? So the public sphere is like the streets, in the offline space, the streets. You being outside, you can be attacked for being outside. And especially now when there are all these like layers of what outside means. That's why someone will have a problem with you, let's say like in certain places, walking outside by yourself, for example, and without a man, or at night, or being in certain public spaces like a club or a party or wherever, right? Exactly. And then now it goes into other layers where even the public sphere also means work, right? So women existing in the workplace. So you have a lot of vitriol against women who are existing in the workplace, and not only existing, but are successful. So then you have all these conversations around you, like women are sleeping their way to the top, or there's an unfairness when it comes to like jobs and things like that, because women are not supposed to exist in the public. Then now social media is just an extension of that, because it makes women even more visible. Like, you're more public, you're more, and then now you're sharing like your thoughts, your lives, how dare you? That's why a woman can literally post a picture of herself just being cute, and she is bullied for days on end. And when you go to look at the thing, you're like, she just posted a picture. She didn't even say anything. She just posted a picture of herself, and then she was bullied for a week. Because you're not supposed to exist in the public sphere at all as a woman. So when we kind of understand that, all this starts to make sense. It starts to make sense that we think that, oh, there's some sort of like extra something happening. No, it's because women are not supposed to be existing in the public sphere. And then now we have the audacity to not only exist in the public sphere, but to be doing well in those public spheres. So now it's like everyone, especially people who feel that those opportunities are being taken away from them, of course they're mad. They're like, you're not supposed to be existing here. So even the online space, whether women look good, the whole thing of looking good, and so it looks like, oh, you're doing well in life, it's making somebody else pissed off, because they're like, how dare you be having a good day? How dare you be doing well or looking like you're doing well? Because again, I mean, how do they know
That you're actually doing well?
The point is the presentation, right? So you're presenting as though you're doing well. And so it's triggering somebody's insecurities and jealousy and all these things. And they're like, and it's misogyny, basically, just being like, women are not supposed to be, this woman, she's a woman, cannot be doing better than me. And then she has the audacity to come and post here and that she looks like she's doing better than me. So of course I'm going to spend a lot of time taking out my anger and envy and disappointment with my own life on this person that I don't know. So it's really just misogyny. So even for like politicians and things, again, especially like you are existing in a position of power.
Space.
You are existing in a position of power. How dare you? You know? So of course there's a lot more, because the default, men having power is the default. It's the expectation. But as a woman, you existing in the public space, and then you have the audacity to also be existing in a position of power. Of course, we are gonna come for you. We're gonna, any small thing you do, we're gonna pile up on you. And the kind of, because of course, for me, I'm like, yes, we should not be giving women special treatment who are in power, because you also need to be doing what you're supposed to be doing. And a lot of these people, honestly, come on, guys, they're really like joking, but the kind of, I guess, talking about women politicians versus the men, it's so you can see the difference. It's starkly different. So there's a lot of more vitriol towards the women. And just because, again, it's a layer of misogyny. So it's not just like, oh, we're mad at you because Kenya is XYZ, the same way we're mad at the male politicians. Nope. It's also because, hey, you're a woman, and I feel it's like just natural to not just talk about how you're a failure of a politician, but also how you're a bimbo, or this and that about your body, which you would never comment on if it's a man. So so there's a lot of that, but really, truly, it's misogyny, and that women are not supposed to exist in the public sphere in general. And then, yes, I do believe that some of these tactics are used by, certain politicians or whoever trying to get back at certain women and things, that's a great way to, to attack like a woman politician or a woman in power. Absolutely. I do believe that, yes, there's a general misogyny of the population, but there's also like parts of it that you can tell this is a targeted attack. It's even like when you see it with women in corporate, right? Where sometimes you can see, yes, it's a general conversation, just people being misogynist and just, being giddy about having the opportunity to pile on a woman who is in power or who they feel is like successful, and they feel that envy towards, because how dare you? But also there's targeted attacks, and we see this a lot. So yeah, you can kind of tell when you look that you're like, this is a targeted one, and then people just pile on, and then the ones where it's like, okay, it's the general misogyny. But yeah, basically it's just misogyny.
So yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, it's just misogyny, because even for the targeted attacks, they rely on the guarantee that other men will join it. Because, and women. I
mean, there are people who are like foot soldiers and can't wait.
And they don't even realize it sometimes.
No, because the part of being the foot soldier, you have to feel like you're special and different.
I noticed that, especially with female politicians, women insulting female politicians using these misogynistic terms, don't see it as a problem, because it's like, yeah, we hate politicians. Am I right?
No, yeah, but it's because, again, I do think like this is a mindset. I maybe someone might be like, oh, Mwende, that's, I don't know. But I do sympathize with some of that. I actually do sympathize. So sometimes, I know people say, oh, pick me's, oh, foot soldiers, princess, patriarchy princesses. But I do sympathize. And even when it comes to like, race, we do have like, Black people of color, and we are seeing it all over the world right now, who are happily going after other people of color who have been in similar situations, because they want to please, they want to be part of the whatever, the in group. And so for me, I do sympathize, because I kind of get like, oh yeah, you think it's a great strategy, and it has a lot of, other things going on with you where you feel like, no, I'm not a victim. There's that whole, I'm not a victim.
Yeah.
Like when people say, I don't need feminism. I'm not a victim, like these other babes.
See that.
I am, I'm such and such. I've gone and done. I'm the CEO of, I'm the blah, blah. Or, no, I worked so hard to get here. I don't need feminism. These other women are victims, and they're always pretending. And it's sort of like you don't understand that these things are structural. They're systems. You've been one individual that is like doing okay or well enough in the system, and you even have access to some of the power does not mean that these systems don't exist, and that when push comes to shove, you will be reminded of your place.
Can you speak to, I know this might not be your area of expertise, but can you speak to how, I mean, these apps are made by men. I think the only popular app that I can think of that is made by women is like Bumble. And even that is going down the chute, But all these other apps are made by men. And with an app with Facebook Meta and how the algorithm is set up, and now with Elon Musk on X, how that algorithm has changed, it definitely creates a scenario where GBV and cyberbullying increase. So can you speak to why that is and how, these misogynistic men creating misogynistic apps?
I don't actually think that they're necessarily of course they're misogynistic, but I don't think they're like misogynistic. I think what it is back to what I said, right? The world is run by the systems of capitalism and patriarchy, right? So these systems are for organizing labor and capital. That's it. So, and power. So it's labor, capital, and power. When you understand those systems, everything just becomes so clear. You'll just be like, oh, this is the logic of it. Like I said, I like to think of logic. Most people are acting on a logic, even if they're not aware of what the logic is. So if already we've said that misogyny drives up numbers, right? That's why all these people are trying to be misogynistic. And even all these podcasts that are big now, they're doing the same thing, right? Where they realize, you know what sells? Misogyny. Why? Because generally society is misogynistic. Yes. And so I will go viral if I go on there and say women, blah, 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 blah. And women are not your relatives or whatever it is. If I say something, even if I don't believe it, because some of these guys don't even believe the things they say, but they have a strategy for selling it. Now, the unfortunate part is, of course, now what's going on with the whole young men that are, just being influenced by people who are honestly grifters. They're grifters because they understand. It's basically like the whole fake pastors. They're using the same strategy. Someone is preying on your beliefs and making money off of it. They're grifters. So if misogyny because of patriarchy is popular, then these guys see that, what content is popping off? Misogyny. Guess what the algorithm does? These apps are purely for capital. These guys don't care about protecting anyone or doing whatever. That's why you find a lot of the content that is up there. It's because the algorithm is people are feeding into this thing. And it actually says something about human nature. Because if it's what are we feeding? We're feeding misogynistic content, violent content, content even when it's soft content, it's just dramas, this relationship dramas. And you know what I mean? That's the content. So if that's what is constantly trending, the algorithm is going to push more of that. Because what do they want to do? Make money.
Yeah. So this is what the people are asking for.
The algorithm is just purely profit. It's capitalism at its finest. So even now when you see them stripping away all this whatever and putting AI and things, because they're trying to make more money. It's really that simple. It's capitalism is the path that we are following. How can we make more money? We make more money by making sure the algorithm is pushing whatever is the biggest thing. And what is the biggest thing? Misogyny.
As we wrap up, we've said that we have to stay in these spaces if possible. What sort of digital safety can you envision going forward in a situation where we still get to maintain our freedom of speech, where we can still have political dissent, where we can speak out our minds? How does digital safety look like?
That is such a big question. A lot of spaces where we've had these conversations around digital rights and how digital rights are human rights, which is true, and about, digital governance and things like that, and how these spaces, because it's the internet is basically like a utility now, and how people having the right to access the internet, how it's should be a basic right, because there are all these opportunities and all these ways of connecting and stuff, and how, it's a big deal when governments, shut down the internet, because that's how big a deal it is to be online, even though again, so many people are still online, but again, there's all this work to get them online because everyone should be online. So it's sort of this big thing that we're all trying to make better, But at the same time, I don't think anyone really has the answers. I think the weird thing about the internet that I've always found so fascinating is the fact that we're literally figuring it out as we go. Where even the legislation is always like so far behind the innovations. They literally have no like they're trying to they legislate as we go. And then it's always like years and years behind because the innovation is so quick. And then at the same time, we're literally using the tools as they're being made. Even the people making the tools don't know how we will use the tools or what will happen. So it's like this weird kind of like interesting thing, like experimental, is constantly moving, shifting. Even psychologists don't know what happens to our minds. Now is when they're talking about, oh, wait, actually, our minds have been changed so much by the internet. Short form video has completely changed our minds, has changed our brain chemistry and things like that. So it's like we're finding out as we go, which is scary. It's exciting, but it's also scary because then it means we actually don't know what some of these tools will do to us. Like, what we're seeing with like some of the things around AI. Like, unfortunately, people even taking their own lives, other people becoming socially like incapable, where you're hearing stories of people having like AI girlfriends and AI boyfriends and spouses and things like that, or having AI friends. And it's because you literally can't have a real relationship because you can't do fiction, because human relationships have fiction.
It feels like an episode of Black Mirror.
It is an episode of Black Mirror. And so it's such a weird thing to kind of think of. So we're in this thing where things are happening and then we are trying to figure it out as it's happening. Then we don't even know what the effects are because we are also experiencing it in real time. Then the legislation and anything protections that could protect us are behind because they can't create legislation for things they also don't know what will happen. We're all there. And then, but at the same time, we all understand that these are powerful tools. So even when we talk about like governments doing shutdowns and things like that, or trying to control these platforms, even with Elon buying the platform, it's a part of control. Or with all these governments, not just doing shutdowns, but having teams, like in Kenya. There are teams whose job is to be online monitoring and talking and trying to like shift conversations. And so, you have a whole people doing strategies around the conversations that are online. That's how serious it is and how powerful it is. So if we're kind of, I think, in this weird thing where there's no one answer, for me, I do think it's like a very layered thing. I would just say that 1, 2, I do think that it's important to be digitally literate because unfortunately the world is the way it is. And if you're not digitally literate, it's like you're being left out of such a huge part of the world. So not just for article conversations and things, but tools and blah, 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 especially like with jobs and everything is just so digital. And then digital literacy is, a lot of people can have skills, like digital skills. So you can go online and post, but you're not digital literate. You don't understand how a lot of these things work. I think it's important to take a step forward into like putting effort into really understanding like even the kind of like things like privacy. I'm always surprised. People don't know how to like go and do and I'm like, oh wait, you should put in a bit of effort to understand that, how to like put, whatever. People can't share. Like if I'm on Instagram, I could be completely private, but if you're not, okay, people can't download my things. People can't go and share this. People can't, like just taking more control over your platforms because it's your platform. And then also I would say, I am a reporter. Reporting, like you should contribute to the ecosystem.
Yeah, of what's good and what's bad.
Reports. And if you have like access, like to, like for me, I've got access to like the community notes, contribute to community notes. Like look at it as like, this is an ecosystem. I'm part of the ecosystem and I want to make the ecosystem better. And then also like, if you see people being like, for me, I'm like, if I see people being bullied or whatever, I'm there because I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't I be, hey, XYZ? Because again, it's using my platform for
good,
or just for what I stand for, like for creating a better internet space. And then I think if you are in spaces where you can, for those who are now in the internet spaces, like to really contribute to Africa being at the table. Because I do think like we're more of like looked at as, again, it's part of the extractive, like with what was going on with the guys, the data guys who were like exposed to horrible things.
Yeah, those who are training and moderating.
So we're being looked at as more of like, it's extractive again, or, data centers and things like that. So we're not at the table. And so it's trying to figure out how can we be at that table? What can we do to start being part of the conversation? Because clearly it's not going anywhere. The internet is here. It's here to stay. We have to be in the space, but now it's figuring out how can we be in this space? Because if you opt out, it's like some other people will make those decisions and will create the conversations and will take this thing in a different direction. And we actually don't know where it's going. It's for us to be there and be like, okay, we also have a say. We don't want X, Y, Z, even though I know these guys will push. But again, we've pushed back on enough things. So I'm very positive that we can keep pushing back on more things around the internet.
Yeah, that's amazing. To end on a positive note, because we've talked about the internet as a place for learning, share with us something that you've learned recently.
What have I learned? Oh my goodness. I think I'm such an online. I'm trying to think of what's the most interesting. I mean, I've really gotten into like crocheting. So I've been following this girl. She's on TikTok and YouTube that makes the crochet dolls. So I'm working on my first. I'm working on my first crochet doll. Like and it's really funny because I keep thinking to myself like, oh wow, I don't know if you've seen these like memes and things about like millennials and being like, pick your thing now. Like, what are you doing? And so me, I'm like, okay, running. Yes, I am now running. I'm crocheting. Soon maybe I'll be those high rocks CrossFit people. Sometimes I do think that just even for my mental health and my mind, I do want to learn how to do more things with my hands. Because I think we're kind of losing the
tactile skills.
Because I realized the other day, like my hand was struggling even to write because I don't handwrite a lot. I tend even journaling, I'll just be like,
yeah, me too.
And I'm realizing, okay, I'm losing that skill. And especially now with this rise of AI and stuff, I really do want to take back a lot of my humanity, like my humanness. And so I've been handwriting and even handwriting notes like for my friends. And then I want to like get good at crocheting. I want to like get better at, so I realized, man, how do you grow tomatoes and stuff? I want to learn how to do things that are not necessarily online as a way to also reclaim some of my, I guess, humanness. As of course, I continue to figure out like, how can we exist in both? Because it does feel like we're existing in two worlds. And I'm not ready to kind of like give one up.
Of course. Wow. Thank you so much, Mwende, for joining us today and for those wonderful thoughts. You've given me a lot to ponder on. Thank you so much for watching as well. Tune in to the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this one and bye for now.